pledged from the time I was an adult in church. I've pledged at whatever church I belonged to or wherever I was a member. I grew up going to church with my parents, and pledging and giving to the church was part of my upbringing.
I believe we started pledging when we joined the church here in Newnan. Was that 2000?
When I joined the Episcopal Church was in grad school. And so when I first started going to a church on my own as an adult.
Last year.
Last year was
for the first time, yeah. I had a discussion with Father Allen, because I always thought I volunteered a lot. You know, I did a lot of things, gave my gifts all the time. And he was like, Kimberly, that's not enough. So I thought, yeah, I guess not. So then I had to rethink my way of contributing to the church.
I guess in choosing it in my 20s, I was really choosing to join that church and wanting it to be a home. And I think you should support your home, just like you have to support the house you sleep in. You have to support the other house that you come to. And the church gave me so many opportunities and activities, and I felt a need to give back and help support that so I could continue doing it.
For a long time I was unemployed, and I didn't have the means. So I tried to compensate for that, you know, by contributing services, my gifts, and other things. And then when I became gainfully employed, it seemed that everything else became more important, but that should have been the priority. And it wasn't until I talked to Father Allen that I realized that.
It's a vital part of keeping the church moving along. The church gives back so much to us, so it's not just an obligation. It's something that comes from the heart, something that comes from discernment and prayer and conversation with your spouse, of course.
What prompted me was probably the example of my parents. It was just part of what my family did. Yes, and I would love to give more, and I plan to give more as I can, as I'm able. And also for special projects, too, that come up, we try to give to those as well. Capital campaigns or, maybe special needs the church has.
Yes, I was able to do that when I first started because I got a new job. But now I work for myself, so it becomes a bit more difficult.
Well, depending on income, I would say the percentage has stayed about the same. The amount has changed based on how our income is doing.
Oh yeah, it's always difficult to sit there and say, okay, we've got X dollars in our budget overall. It's a leap of faith. It's definitely a leap of faith sometimes to put it out there, to put a percentage of your income or a fixed number, because as we all know, we don't know what the future holds for the next year. And sometimes we're in a tight bind, but in the end, you know you've done the right thing.
Sometimes it's hard. I feel like I don't pledge enough because things have changed in my life from year to year. Different expenses have come up, and I can't always give what I'd like to. Is it difficult to give? No, if you make that part of your regular budget, if you make it part of your household budget, plan for it, whatever that amount is. Again, sometimes we've been able to give more, and sometimes we've had to cut back, but we've always given.
In years where our income is very low, it's very hard to want to give up anything when you want to use it to eat or pay your mortgage. And so I've always tried to keep in mind that those that give, receive, and I can give it away and it's all going to work out.
It's basically making a promise. You know, you just got to make sure you can actually do what you're promising. It just seems simple to me. Sometimes, though, you know, you can't hold your promise. You have to be careful what you promise. Yes, I feel like I'm contributing something.
Community, number one. Worship, closeness to God, programs for our youth, you name it, from A to Z.
Just knowing that it helps to keep the ministries here that we utilize and that we love coming and participating, and that the church needs a certain amount to be able to stay and function and provide these great ministries. And so we don't help out. If everyone doesn't help out, we won't have those.
Well, I love the community of St. Paul's. I love being here, sort of with the faith that the money is going to be used to spread the gospel when it can, to provide a community of believers. I also enjoy the worship here, the liturgy and the worship, and I trust the vestry that's elected here to use those resources as they see fit and the best way to promote the gospel in the world.
It matters to me to be able to say, in a world that wants to diminish people of faith and things of faith, to say, no, this God deserves to be first in a real and material way. Some people say, well, 10%, my goodness. I understand that. So then what percentage is worthy? For some of us, 10% is too little. It just is, because we've been richly blessed. And for some of us, 10% is just about right. So, but I trust you to know your own finances. But if not 10%, then what percentage says that you're serious about building and enlarging God's kingdom in the here and now? See, I think really God at the end of the day is not so much caught up in the dollars and cents as He is the stretch. You know what I mean by that? The risk. The stretch. That means everything. That means everything to God. And God has this wonderful promise, which is, if you stretch towards me, I don't promise you a Bentley in every driveway, as some people preach not far from here. I promise you one thing. If you stretch with me, you'll get to know me. And that's the only promise we hold out, folks. Is that if we take a step with God, if we stretch with God in our calendar and in our checkbook and in our gifts, giving them to God's glory, we will know God. And the Bible says this one thing crystal clear, that knowing God is enough. Now that's good news.